What's going on, everyone? Today we're going to be talking about Marvel's Avengers. Now, this isn't a review or a preview, it's just me sharing my thoughts about what I liked and didn't like about the game during my time playing the beta. And just a quick disclaimer before we get into it, all of the gameplay I captured is of course from the beta and running on PS4 Pro. I guess it's not really representative of the final game, and some things could technically change before release, but it's less than a month away, so what we're seeing here is pretty close to the final product. That said, I think a few tweaks here and there could really make a significant difference. I know this game is pretty divisive right now because most people who have played it are either completely in love with it or they absolutely hate it. But after spending the entire weekend playing through the beta, I personally feel like this game actually has a lot of potential to be something great. The overall concept behind Marvel's Avengers sounds really good on paper. You get to team up with your friends and play as some of the world's most celebrated superheroes, fight supervillains, and search for precious, precious loot. In a way, it sounds kind of like Destiny or Borderlands or basically any other loot-driven game. And while it does share some similarities with those games, I feel like it actually has more in common with RPGs like Diablo and action games like Devil May Cry. Instead of an open world, you take on missions from the war table. The missions range anywhere between really quick 2 to 3 minute long drop zone missions to much bigger and much more elaborate story missions that can take upwards of 15 to 20 minutes to complete. Now, the story missions are definitely a lot more fun and give you way more opportunities to explore and find loot. The shorter drop zone missions, on the other hand, I don't think are nearly as much fun, and they start to feel kind of repetitive after you've played through them a few times. The beta gives you access to 10 missions at the war table, but only 3 of those are actual story missions. The story missions are way more fun and elaborate, and they encourage a lot more teamwork if you're playing with friends. For example, there was one mission that required me to fight off waves of enemies while I had to hit certain switches in a particular order to unlock a giant vault door. It was definitely one of the highlights of the entire beta, and it gives me a lot of hope for the full game. Second to that was the opening A-Day mission, which let me play as all of the main Avengers, including Captain America and Thor. It felt like a really cool intro montage of what's to come, and I think it did a really good job setting the tone for the rest of the game. Now, initially, I thought the combat felt a little too simple and clunky, but once I got a feel for how each character plays and built out their skill trees a bit more, I started to have a lot more fun with it. Now, that said, I think there's still definitely room for improvement. The timing with the parry system is a bit off, and I think it does need a few tweaks, and the lock-on targeting can often be more frustrating than helpful. Not to mention, the frame rate can get pretty choppy during some of the bigger battles, which only makes the combat feel more clunky and unpolished. But at the end of the day, those are just some minor complaints that I'm sure can be fixed with a few updates. As far as loot goes, there's definitely plenty of it, but I was a little disappointed when I found out that changing your gear doesn't have any cosmetic effect on your character. There are a lot of different skins that you can unlock for each Avenger, but unfortunately, you can't customize the look of your gear piece by piece. And I understand why that aspect might be a deal breaker for some folks, but I also realized that that was probably Marvel's call and not the devs. So it's not really something that I'd say is a deal breaker for me personally, at least this early in the game. I think a lot of the skins I've seen so far are actually pretty cool, and thankfully you can earn every one of them just by playing the game. And I know there are special exclusive skins out there with marketing deals, but that's a whole other topic, and I'm really just focused on what you get with the base game. Like most loot-driven games, legendaries and exotics don't come easy. Occasionally you'll get lucky enough to nab some legendary or exotic loot, but you'll also spend a lot of time dismantling less powerful gear and using the resources you get to upgrade your current gear. And it's still pretty gratifying every time something new drops, because even though it might be a lower level piece of loot, you can still use its resources to upgrade your current set. The gear you find adds stat bonuses that not only affect your attacks and defense, but also unlock extra elemental buffs and debuffs like cosmic energy and pin particles. So the gear you pick can definitely affect the way you approach a certain mission, which I think is pretty cool. Ultimately, I had a lot of fun with the Avengers beta, and I definitely think you should check it out for yourselves when it opens up again this weekend. Like I said, I think there's a lot of potential for this game to be something pretty great, but that'll be highly dependent on the amount of content it gets at launch and the amount of replay value that content has in the end game. Not to mention, the developers have already said that they will be adding new heroes to the roster post-release, which should hopefully keep things feeling fresh and fun. But now I want to hear your thoughts. Did you get a chance to play the beta? If you did, what are some of the things you liked and didn't like? And who's your favorite Avenger to play as? Right now, I'm leaning towards Iron Man, but I'm curious to hear what your mains will be. Join me in the comments below and let me know. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and subscribe for more videos just like this one. Thanks, and have a great day.